Quality looks like a free upgrade, same inserter, just faster. But watch what actually happens when your factory starts pushing the limits. Your train station is working, but the train is still sitting there, because unloading is too slow, one transfer bottleneck, and your whole rail network starts to drag. Then you look at your beacon block, belts look full, everything should be fine, but the machines keep blinking idle for split seconds. That's micro-starvation, and it quietly kills your real throughput. Now swap just a handful of inserters for higher quality ones as the choke points. The train leaves faster, the block stays fed, the flicker disappears. That's the real point. Quality inserters aren't free speed, they're stability. They let you move the same items with fewer arms, fewer patch fixes, and with fewer why is this backing up moments. Quality changes three things on inserters, and they're all easy to feel once you're building at scale. First is the obvious one, rotation speed. Higher quality means the arm swings faster, and that directly increases how many items that inserter can move per second. If an inserter was a bottleneck before, upgrading it isn't a nice to have, it's literally raising the ceiling of that entire step in the factory. Second is the smoothness boost, the hidden benefit beyond raw speed. In a slow casual build, an inserter being slightly late doesn't matter. But in tight builds, especially beacon machines, direct insert chains and train stations, timing becomes everything. A faster swing means the next item arrives sooner, and that reduces those tiny pauses where a machine briefly waits for input, or where an output backs up for a moment and starts ripple effects. You might not notice it as a single problem, but across a whole block, it can be the difference between running smoothly or constantly flickering. Third is the trade-off, power. Inserters don't magically become more energy efficient per movement, the energy per rotation is basically constant, so when you increase swing speed, the inserter is doing more movement per second, and it draws more power while it's working. In other words, quality isn't free speed, it's more throughput and more stability, paid for with proportionally higher active power. Higher quality inserters don't just make items move faster, they change how the factory scales. Because they strengthen the transfer points that correctly cap your throughput. First, throughput per tile. A faster inserter means you can move the same amount of items with fewer inserters, that immediately shrink builds. Fewer arms packed around machines, fewer awkward belt bends, fewer just add another chest fixes, and less need to widen a block just to fit more inserters. Instead of solving bottlenecks by adding more moving parts, you solve them by making each transfer point stronger, so layouts stay compact and easier to expand. Then comes blueprint simplicity and performance. When you can replace 2 or 3 inserters everywhere with one that actually keeps up, your blueprints get cleaner. Fewer entities to place, fewer power connections, fewer edge cases to investigate. But quality inserters come with a real trade-off, speed versus power, and it helps to understand why the power goes up because it's not random. Here's a simple model. Inserters don't pay most of their energy per item, they pay it per movement. Think of it like this, every swing costs a certain amount of energy based on how far the arm rotates. So if the inserter swings through more degrees per second, it's burning more energy per second while it's working. That's why the active power draw rises with rotation speed, there is an idle drain too. But most of the cost comes from movement when the arm is actually doing work. Now, what does that mean in practice? If you do a straight one-to-one replacement, normal inserter becomes a higher quality inserter in the exact same spot. You'll get more throughput, but you should also expect higher active power whenever that inserter is busy. And if you upgrade a lot of inserters in places that were on bottlenecks, you'll see the power bill go up without getting much benefit. But there's an important flip side. Quality inserters often reduce how many inserters you need in the first place. If one upgraded inserter can do the job of 2 normal inserters, like at train unloading, fast beacon output, or tight direct insert handoffs, then total inserter count drops. At that point, the total power can end up similar or sometimes even lower because you're achieving the same throughput with fewer moving parts, fewer idle drains, and fewer simultaneous swings. It means there is no significant increase of the power usage proportionally to the inserter speed with higher quality of the inserters. So power only becomes a real decision in a few specific scenarios. Early game, when you're running steam power and you're already close to burnout, a few upgrades can push you into a power spiral. However, quality isn't easily accessible in early game, so you shouldn't worry about it too much. Another scenario is for remote outposts, where power is limited, expensive, or delivered by few trains, and any extra draw hurts reliability. And late game, if you blanket upgrade thousands of inserters without good reasons, the combined effect becomes noticeable even if each individual inserter seems small. The rule of thumb is to upgrade inserters where speed replaces extra hardware. If quality lets you remove inserters, remove buffers, shorten a station, or stabilize a high-speed block, it's usually worth the power. If it's just a one-to-one upgrade in a low-traffic area, you're mostly just paying more watts for a stat you don't need. If faster, higher quality inserters would solve the bottleneck, but they aren't used, the factory usually works. It just gets forced into messier and messier solutions. First, overbuilding. Instead of fixing the transfer point, the usual reaction is to brute force it. Add more machines, add more inserters, add buffer chests, add extra belt lanes, add more splitters. The problem is that all of those fixes increase footprint and complexity, and they often create new bottlenecks somewhere else. So the base grows, but it doesn't get cleaner, it gets heavier. Then ratio builds become fragile at scale. In late game, many builds are balanced so tightly that tiny delays matter. One slow handoff causes a brief pause. That pause lowers output for a moment, which starves the next step, which creates another pause, and now the whole block starts flickering instead of running smoothly. It's not one big failure, it's a chain of small ones, and the result is that the build never reaches the throughput it should reach on paper. Finally, train networks slow down. Stations are transfer bottlenecks, and if inserters can't load or unload fast enough, trains sit longer. Longer dwell times mean fewer trains per minute, more trains stacking up behind stations, and schedules that start drifting. Even if production is fine, the race system becomes the limiter, not because trains are slow, but because the station can move items quickly enough. The best way to use quality inserter is to treat them like a budget. Spend them where one upgraded arm upgrades an entire system. Train station, this is the highest leverage place in the whole game. If your inserters can't load or unload fast enough, train sits there longer, queues from behind the station, and your entire rail network throughput drops. Upgrading the station inserters shortens dwell time, which means more trains per minute, which means more resources delivered without adding extra tracks or extra stations, and because each inserter is stronger, you can often hit the same throughput with fewer inserters and fewer chests, so the station gets smaller, cleaner, and easier to copy-paste. Then, tile layouts and compact modes. In cramped areas, bottlenecks happen simply because there isn't enough physical room to add one more inserter or one more belt lane. Quality inserters let you keep things compact without turning the area into spaghetti. Fewer arms means fewer collisions, fewer wheel belt hacks, fewer emergency buffer chests, and fewer rebuilds when you expand the mall later. Another good scenario to use quality inserters are critical hubs, anything that feeds the whole base. Module production is a great example. It's expensive, it's high volume, and any store there starves a ton of other systems. The same goes for ammo feeding a high pressure choke point, or staging parts for rocket and space production. Upgrading inserters at these hubs prevents small transfer bottlenecks from becoming base-wide slowdowns. And the final scenario, Gleba. Gleba is basically the planet where transfer speed becomes strategy. Many recipes consume huge volume, so inserter handoffs become bottlenecks earlier than expected. And slow hands-off don't just reduce throughput, they create backups. On Gleba, backups are extra painful because items can spoil while they're waiting on belts or sitting in chests. Quality inserters help by keeping biochains flowing smoothly, fewer microstores, fewer pileups, and fewer ripple delays that turn into spoilage. The best places to spend them are the hot transfer points, station loads and unload, biochamber inputs and outputs, spoilage sorting, and any buffer that tends to fill up when the line gets even slightly out of rhythm. So the pattern is simple: use quality inserters where the factory is most sensitive to transfer speed, stations, beacon blocks, tight builds, direct insertion, critical hubs, and Gleba chains where backups turn into real losses. There are plenty of times where quality inserters are simply not worth spending because they won't change what's actually limiting you. One case is when the inserter isn't the bottleneck. If the belt feeding it isn't saturated or the chest is empty half the time, then a faster inserter won't create items out of nowhere. The constraint is upstream, not enough mining, not enough smelting, not enough production, or a belt that's already starved. Upgrading the inserter just gives you the same poses with a faster arm. Another case is the early game. At that stage, the real limits are usually research, power, and raw resource flow. Progress comes from big cheap expansions, more miners, more furnaces, more basic automation, not precision upgrades at transfer points. Quality inserters can be an expensive solution to a problem that hasn't appeared yet. A third case is low traffic builds where timing doesn't matter, small mall lines, occasional crafting, side products, or anything that's idle most of the time won't benefit. If the machine isn't running close to full load, faster hands-off don't increase throughput, they just make the swing animation finish sooner. So only upgrade at transfer bottlenecks if a handoff is the reason a machine is idle, a station is slow, or a high-speed block is flickering, that's a good upgrade. If the system is simply limited or low traffic, save the quality inserters for somewhere that actually needs them. A practical way to apply quality inserters without turning the factory into a random mix of tiers is to start with a simple priority order, because not every inserter upgrade is worth the same. At the top are stations. Station inserters get your entire logistics system. Faster loading and unloading reduces dwell time, increases train per minute, and often fixes rail congestion without adding more tracks or more stations. Right after that come beacon blocks. These are the belts that run closest to the edge, where inserters are most likely to be the limiter even when belts look full. Upgrading a handful of inserters here can stabilize the entire block and let it actually reach its intended throughput. Next are direct insert chains. Machine-to-machine handoffs are extremely sensitive to timing. If one transfer step is too slow, the whole chain starts pausing and pulsing. Quality inserters keep those hands-off consistent so the chain stays smooth without relying on buffers. After that, focus on critical hubs, anything that feeds a large portion of the base, module production, ammo supply for choke points, rocket and space staging. If these stall, everything downstream feels it. Upgrading transfer points here prevents small handoff problems from becoming base-wide slowdowns. Everything else is optional. If an area isn't throughput limited, upgrading inserters there is mostly cosmetic. Save the premium inserters for places where they remove a real bottleneck. And this is the part that keeps quality from becoming chaos. Keep your upgrades intentional, maintain a dedicated premium inserter supply that you only route to those high leverage targets. Don't blanket upgrades the whole factory, because that's how you spend a lot of quality for very little gain. And that's it for this video. If this helped you understand what higher quality inserters are for, like, subscribe, and comment on when you use your higher quality inserters, and see you soon for another video.